Welcome back to Football Daily, where today we're giving you a part 2 of our worst January transfers. Strap yourselves in. 10. Gonzalo Higuain. One of Europe's most consistent strikers, Gonzalo Higuain's 2018-19 season marked just the second time in 11 campaigns that he failed to top 15 league goals, as loan spells at AC Milan and Chelsea yielded little inspiration from the Argentinian. However, when the former Real Madrid man arrived at Stamford Bridge in January 2019, Premier League fans were hopeful they'd see him return to form. After all, he was linking back up with Maurizio Sarri, who oversaw his most prolific season in 2015-16, when he netted 36 in the league for Napoli. But it wasn't to be. Higuain scored a brace on his second league start for the Blues, but would score just 3 more over the next 15 appearances in all competitions, carrying on the curse of the number 9 shirt in West London and making his £31 million option to buy look all the more hefty. Thankfully, since returning to Juve, he has become a positive asset once again, adding a creative edge to his game not seen since his early days in Italy. Meanwhile, Tammy Abraham is fast becoming Chelsea's best-loved number 9 since Hasselbank. 9. Guido Carrillo. As this video goes out, Southampton seem to have finally solved their striker conundrum, with Danny Ings scoring at a rate of 1 every 111 minutes, 18 months after his £20 million switch from Liverpool. But not long ago, the Saints were seriously struggling in front of goal, and their move for Guido Carrillo in January 2018 proved a massive waste of time and money. Having pocketed £75 million from the sale of Virgil van Dijk, the South Coast club decided to splash nearly a quarter of it on the Monaco target man, known for his ability in the air and with previous experience of working with then-manager Maurizio Pellegrino in Argentina. However, his success in Ligue 1 had been primarily as an impact sub, and he struggled to lead the Southampton line effectively. In 7 league appearances, he didn't find the net once, and following the departure of Pellegrino, was dropped from the squad entirely by the incoming Mark Hughes. Carrillo was loaned out that summer, linking back up with his former coach at Leganés, but after a relatively successful first season in La Liga, he has stagnated in 1920, and saw his game time cut once again after Pellegrino left the Madrid club in October. 8. Manolo Gabbiadini. Manolo Gabbiadini loves a January transfer. In fact, his last 3 moves have come in the winter window, but none have been particularly successful. The Italian was initially a hit after switching Sampdoria for Napoli in 2015, mainly playing out of position on the right, but still contributing to goals consistently, hitting the back of the net once every 107 minutes in his first 5 months in southern Italy. But having thrived under Rafa Benitez at the San Paolo, the Italian striker saw his game time cut by Maurizio Sarri, and was subsequently sold to Southampton for €17 million in January 2017. But his Premier League career proved to be a flash in the pan. He scored 6 goals in his first 4 games for the Saints, including a brace in the League Cup final against Man United, but he would score the same amount over his next 56 appearances, and was on his way back to Sampdoria by the beginning of 2019. And it's clear Ildoria could have got a lot more for their money. They spent nearly €12 million to bring Gabbiadini back to Italy. But while 8 goals and 3 assists in just over 1,500 league minutes is acceptable in a struggling side, that doesn't look so good when you see the progress made by Luis Muriel, another former Samp player, who has 10 goals in 9 starts for Atalanta at the time of recording. What's more, the Colombian cost only marginally more at €15 million. Clearly Sampdoria brought the wrong guy back. Before we go any further, just a quick reminder to subscribe to Football Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss an upload. 7. Klaas-Jan Huntelaar. Real Madrid knew they were taking a risk when they signed Klaas-Jan Huntelaar in January 2009, and back then €20 million was a hefty amount to spend on a risk. The Dutchman arrived at the Bernabeu off the back of a 2-month injury layoff, after suffering a torn ankle ligament at Ajax, and understandably took some time to come up to speed. Once back at full fitness, he hit an instant purple patch, hitting 8 goals in 6 La Liga games as Los Blancos piled pressure on Barcelona, who were being supercharged by Guardiola for the first time. However, the drop-off was instant, with Huntelaar failing to find the net in his next 9 appearances, during which Real lost 5 on the trot, with his final start a humiliating 3-1 defeat to Mallorca at home. With Florentino Perez returning as president that summer, the Netherlands international quickly became disposable, and was sold to AC Milan to help offset the huge fees spent on Cristiano Ronaldo and Kaká. After a disappointing spell in Serie A, he regained his form at Schalke, before eventually returning to Ajax in 2017. 6. Dominic Solanke. It is still too early to make a judgment on Dom Solanke's career, but as this video goes out, it's fair to say he hasn't lived up to the expectations at Bournemouth. Regarded as one of England's brightest young talents following a successful loan spell in the Eredivisie with Vitesse in 2015-16. What followed was one of the easiest profits ever made in football. Liverpool picked him up from Chelsea for free in the summer of 2017, and by January 2019 had sold him onto the Cherries for nearly £20 million. despite the 22-year-old having played less than 700 minutes for the Reds over the 18 months. And the South Coast club are yet to see a return on their investment. He struggled to get into the side initially, and despite injuries to David Brooks and Josh King allowing more game time this season, he is yet to make his mark. In fact, his last Premier League goal came for Liverpool back in May 2018, and it took him a full year to register his first for Bournemouth, in a 4-0 win against Luton in the FA Cup. Hardly the kind of form that suggests a future international. Having overpaid massively for underproductive players in the past, see Jordan Ibe, Eddie Howe could be looking at another big miss with Solanke. 5. Philippe Coutinho. Far and away the most expensive transfer on this list, Philippe Coutinho's €145 million move to Barcelona in January 2018 was supposed to represent a massive boost for the Blaugrana midfield, and produce a big dent in the creative capabilities of Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. But it couldn't have gone any differently. While the Reds have gone from strength to strength since parting ways with the Brazilian, losing just 4 times in the league in over 2 years and remaining unbeaten at Anfield during that time period, Barcelona have remained pretty much the same, in that they are still over-reliant on Lionel Messi. Coutinho's arrival at the Camp Nou was initially a success, with the former Inter man hitting 8 goals and 5 assists in under 1,500 league minutes. But over time, Ernesto Valverde struggled to get the best out of the record signing, and he ended the 2018-19 campaign with just 7 goal contributions from over 2,000 minutes, while his shots, dribbles and key passes dropped off significantly. But perhaps the defining aspect of his second season at the Camp Nou was his relationship with the Barca fans, which was all but broken by the end of the campaign. Never an easy bunch to please, Coutinho eventually lost patience, cupping his ear to the stands after scoring against Man United in the Champions League. Since his loan move to Bayern Munich, the little magician looks happier and is playing far better. Whether his parent club will be willing to take the loss on their investment is another matter though. 4. Wayne Bridge. One of the first acquisitions of the Sheikh Mansour era at Man City, Wayne Bridge arrived at the Etihad in January 2009 after years of playing second fiddle to Ashley Cole at Chelsea, and was handed a generous £90,000 a week contract by his newly moneyed employers. He would prove to be an unwise investment. At 28 years old, Bridge was moving past his physical peak as a fullback, and within a year injuries were beginning to hinder his first team involvement. By January 2011 he had already played his final league game for the Citizens, and with Alexander Kolarov taking up the mantle and Gael Clichy's arrival on the horizon, the next 3 years would see him loaned to West Ham, Sunderland and Brighton, where a successful spell in the Championship earned him a permanent move to Reading. But sadly for Bridge, his knee problem soon returned, forcing him to retire in 2014 at the age of 33, just as Man City were winning their second Premier League title in 3 years. But despite upping their transfer game over the last 10 years, left-back remains a problem position for the Sky Blues. 3. Scott Parker. Jumping back to the early days of the winter window now, and at the time when, just like Man City after them, Chelsea had far more money than sense. Roman Abramovich had only been at Stamford Bridge 6 months in January 2004, but his investment had already had an effect on the West London club, who were challenging Man United and Arsenal for the title. But despite Frank Lampard looking like a world beater in the making, and Claude Makelele covering the space expertly alongside him, the need for a new central midfielder was prioritised, and Charlton prodigy Scott Parker was identified. In all fairness, the 23-year-old was hitting the form of his career, helping put the Addicts in contention for a top 6 finish. But it was clear from the get-go he wouldn't be a regular for the Blues. Parker made 7 league starts before the season was out with a view to impressing more the following campaign. However, incoming manager Jose Mourinho didn't take to the Englishman, with the signing of Thiago pushing him further down the pecking order, and he played just 125 minutes of their historic Premier League title campaign. He was subsequently sold to Newcastle at a loss and would go on to enjoy far better spells with West Ham, Spurs and Fulham, where he is now manager. 2. Diego Costa. When Diego Costa returned to Atletico Madrid in January 2018, most expected him to pick up more or less where he left off. Despite approaching his 30s and having lived in exile for a number of months following his public fallout with Chelsea manager Antonio Conte, the Spain international was still one of Europe's most feared centre-forwards, having hit 20 goals in 2 of his 3 seasons in England. The €66 million was an inflated fee to say the least, but if he could replicate the form that made him a household name, it would be swiftly forgotten. But he never got anywhere near it. Costa's time out of the game initially seemed not to affect him, as he scored on his first appearance back in the Spanish capital. But he was sent off in his second game, and injuries soon began to hamper what was meant to be a road to redemption. In 2 years back in Madrid, El Cholo has missed 40 games through injury, and at the time of recording he is set to miss out on at least another 5 following neck surgery at the end of 2019. In 2013-14, the final season of Costa's first stint at Atleti, he scored 27 goals in 35 La Liga appearances, helping Los Colchoneros win their 10th title in the process. Since returning to Spain, he has played just 42 league games, hitting the net a paltry 7 times. That works out at €9.4 million per goal. not worth it. 1. Alexis Sanchez. January 2018 was the window of expensive mistakes. Coutinho and Costa turned out to be disappointing acquisitions for Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, but neither of those transfers have proved as calamitous as that as Alexis Sanchez to Man United. At the time, the English club looked in a relative position of power. They were able to negotiate a swap deal with Arsenal with Henrik Mkhitaryan, who was looking increasingly ineffective at Old Trafford, having managed just 6 assists across 18 months in Manchester. Sanchez, meanwhile, had directly contributed to 34 goals in the league the previous campaign, more than anywhere else in the Prem. And despite showing signs of slowing down, still had 7 goals and 3 assists to his name in the first half of 17-18. This was deemed enough to justify making the Chilean the highest paid player in the league, in a deal worth around £500,000 a week after bonuses and image rights, which would last until he was 33. It was nothing short of a disaster. Manager Jose Mourinho was seemingly unable to accommodate Sanchez in his system effectively, playing him on the left despite the Red Devils having no attacking outlet on the right, and fitness soon became an issue. Having looked at a place for his first few months at Old Trafford, Sanchez was almost anonymous during his second season, with injuries limiting him to 9 league starts, from which he managed 1 goal. His loan move to Inter Milan has so far yielded nothing, and how United get him off the wage bill for good is another matter entirely. So guys, that was our list of 10 disastrous January transfers. What did you guys think of the list? Did we miss anyone out? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!